Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Sunday night Astro Live. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm going to put the link over on the Facebook side of things so people over there can know that we're doing it over here. Let me just jump on in. Let me just put this over on the 11th house page. All right. Here we go. Dropping that in. And there it is. I should get a photo in there, huh? Let me throw my my John McAfee photo in. Oh, where do you get a load of this character tonight? Holy smokes. We're going to talk about Bitcoin tonight, too. I got Bitcoin's chart. I got some killer charts that you guys are going to, I think, dig tonight. Pretty eclectic, a little all over the place, but somehow tied together, which is what we strive to do here. Sunday Night Astro Live. There we go. Okay. Let me check in on the YouTube side. Hey, we got Kato, we got Ani, we got Kathy, we got the purple one. There's Jonas, Janelle, Isla, Tanya. Okay, so Tanya just jumps right in, feet first. Hi, Joe. There's Maurice, aka Maury. Hi, Steve. How's it going? Tanya asks, anyone else hear about the Navy SEALs and Marines getting arrested for trying to bring ISIS snipers in to kill Trump? Hey, what's going on, Al Leon? What's happening? Is that AI Leon? AI Leon? Annette? Hello, Annette from Colorado. Yeah, I've heard about it. Have you guys heard about the there's been some stuff that's been buzzing about what's going on or what will go on in DC with some military maneuvers, some exercises happening in and around DC. They've been talking about that for the last week. And looks like there may have been some Mars 12th house activity to take Trump out. I've just been reading about it. There's some links up over on my Facebook page. Why don't I pop one and see what that looks like here? U.S. Army takes over Pentagon after U.S. Navy smuggles ISIS snipers into America to kill Trump. I'll throw this link up in the chat room so you guys can click on it and see what you think. See if there's any traction there. Give you one sec here. DC had a blackout yesterday. That's what I've heard. Yep. Okay, there's that link. Hey, Cleo Seeker. So there it is. I put the link in the chat, in the live chat. So if that's the case, then bringing this back to astrology, that would line up with Mars being in Trump's 12th house and hidden enemies. So maybe we're seeing a divergent point between the armed forces, if this is true. This is actually true. And the way things are going now, I wouldn't doubt that there's some crazy shit going on. I mean, ever since last week with the Mueller fiasco and what's gone on since then, I think it's open game now. I think it's open season, and I've been picking up on some other stuff that there's some weirdness going on with the Clintons on Twitter. Even though they've gained some followers, people are beginning to distance themselves. We're in no man's land now. This is a very, very, very different territory. Jasper, you need to I love you, Jasper, but man, the computer, Jasper thinks he knows how to use a computer. He's not quite there yet. He's not quite there yet. He hasn't figured out how to use the shift and command keys properly. So until Jasper figures that out, he can't use the computer. Isn't that right, Jasper? In the meantime, the instruction keeps happening. Let me just finish off my last little bit of root beer here. Look who's back. Do you want to say hi to your fans? So, hey, say hi to your fans. Look right into the camera. Not at me. Look at the camera. Say hi to your fans. Now, I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan there is. If you look into that camera right now, you get to say hi to everybody. Have a little quick look. There he is. Say hi to everybody. There he is. If there's any talent scouts, cat talent scouts out there who want to get in touch with Jasper, just go to robertphoenix.com. I'll be happy to make an introduction to the Astro cat. We all love Nathan Stoltman, but let's just face it. Doshi's on Xanax, okay? Doshi's on Xanax. This is a cat right here. Gets engaged in his broadcasts. Right, Jasper? So there's stuff going on. It is on. It is happening. Dan Coates is just stepped away now. And Dan Coates has been critical of Trump being critical of the intelligence agencies. So this is a key figure. I mean, we're just getting into a little bit of the political thing now, but it's a key figure who's stepping aside. And this could be another opportunity for Trump to reinforce his position. Apparently, there's a guy from Texas that he likes and who's been supportive of his efforts to theoretically drain the swamp. So we're in a very interesting time, very interesting place in terms of what's going on and people being exposed. And we've never seen anything like this before. Never. And you thought politics were wild and woolly under the Clinton administration? Holy shit! This is just completely unknown territory. And again, from an astrological standpoint, if it's true that the Navy tried to bring some snipers in and bring them in to take care of Trump, some ISIS snipers, I'm not sure why they need ISIS snipers, but if they brought them in, that's a 12th house Mars and 12th house event, which means that there were hidden enemies from within. And we've been talking about this here for the last few weeks, and we checked in last week and we kind of cranked it up a few weeks ago. So if that's the case, then it's certainly panning out. We're seeing it before our very eyes. Okay, last sip, I promise. Okay. So Jasper, is there anything else you want to say to people before I put you back up on the perch on the other side of the screen? You have any words of feline wisdom you want to share with the world? Okay, why don't you go back up here? Come up here. Come back up to your perch, your big perch, right here. Let's come up here. There we go. Herding cats. He says, I'll get out there when I damn well please. That's what he says. Somehow I believe him. Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we just do a quick check in the chat room and see what we got. Hi everybody, that's from Carol. Hi Carol. The man had info about how Omar is in trouble. Let's see, please bring up your issue with H2O fluoridation. Sorry, can't spell, but this is important. Please give your, oh, okay. So here, just to let people know, supposedly Putin exposed ISIS sniper plot. Okay, all right. So the plot thickens. We got Putin, we got Russians. The plot thickens. Okay, so fluoride. So here in Fredericksburg, we are working on the cessation of fluoridation. So just to give you kind of the Reader's Digest version of this, is that fluoride is this stuff called just the fluoride that's in our water is called hydrofluorosilicic acid, and it is the byproduct of industrial waste. And I'm sorry, it is the byproduct of agricultural fertilizer waste. So it is industrial in the sense that it's created. So it is a generic industrial waste, but its specific use is agricultural fertilizer. So big agri fertilizer. So they have a byproduct of this stuff that they've got to get rid of, and it's called hydrofluorosilicic acid. Just like how the aluminum industry had to get rid of their byproduct for creating aluminum, which ultimately became sodium fluoride, so too does the agriculture industry, or did have to get rid of this other byproduct. So they figured out it's just, a few chain molecules away from being the same thing theoretically as sodium fluoride, but it's not. So this stuff is put into our municipal water supplies. And there are a couple of places in the country. We get ours from a place in Florida. So they ship it in these giant, tanks, and they bring it, and then they disperse it into the water supply. And if this stuff gets into the water supply en extant, meaning the entirety of it, then we'd have a natural disaster on our hands. But because they parse it out a little at a time, theoretically, it's okay for us. Well, in actuality, it's not. And they do it without our consent. And this is the biggest issue that we have here in this town, is that, no, well, we're going to fluoridate your water. It's good for you. Don't worry about it. There's a bunch of poor people who are so backwards and they can't afford toothpaste. And we want to make sure that their kids have nice, good teeth. And by having the fluoride in the water, we're giving them a fighting chance, which is a bunch of bullshit, because it's a very, very small percentage. And they have found that ingesting fluoride is not going to do anything. It's not going to help your teeth or bones. And in fact, it's even worse for you. It's not beneficial at all. The rates of fluorosis on teeth have risen ever since we've had the introduction of fluoride into our water supplies. And there's more to it than that. It affects your bones. It burns out your pineal gland. There's a lot of things that take place with fluoride in the water. However, they did take the fluoride out of the water in Portland. Good on you guys in Portland. But now we're seeing Antifa in action. So maybe they should put the fluoride back into the water in Portland. No, I'm just kidding. But it's an interesting thought, that people are maybe, waking up in a weird way, in a very weird way, possibly in Portland. But we are for informed consent. So what we did is we got a number of signatures to amend the city charter here in Fredericksburg. And by doing that, we triggered a special election, which will happen on the 5th of November. The only beef I have with the city's been pretty good about this, I have to say. So far, the cynical me has been kind of held at bay. It's been put in check. Cynical me has been put in check because the city has been very cooperative. And I've heard, we've talked to other cities here nearby, and how some of them have been, let's say, less than supportive with the efforts of the citizens to get something on their ballot. I'm thinking specifically of San Marcos. We have had a lot. It's not like they're, helping us fill out the forms or anything, but they've been supportive here. So that's been good. But the only beef I have is they've given us a yes vote, which is, it's always confusing when they do stuff like that, right? Like no would have been better, like no fluoride, yes fluoride, but they switched it, right? They switched it. So they're thinking that maybe if people think that they don't want the fluoride, they'll vote no. Okay. So that's, that's kind of politics in action, a bit of a mind fuck. So it's up to us to wrap people's heads around the message that when you vote yes, what you're saying to is, we don't want fluoride. we're ending fluoridation. And that means that they'll shut down the pump that pumps out fluoride every single day into our water supply. And of course, we still have chlorine. Every water supply has chlorine. There's got to be a different way, maybe small parts of seawater or isotonic water or ozone or a combination could do the same thing that chlorine would do. We don't know that. It'd be great to try it out in a small town, that's for sure. It would be great to see if that could happen. And so that way we don't have to put chlorine in the water anymore, that there could be other ways to make our water safe and drinkable. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We have an election on the 5th of November. Somebody asked in the chat room, give us some insight or some info. You could go to cleanwaterfred.com. That's our website, or you could go to Facebook, which is Clean Water Fred, Fredericksburg, or Clean Water Fred as well. Find out more there. Okay, so took care of that order of business. Mercury retrograde is ticking away here. I believe on the 1st, we go direct, not too far in the future. It always gets a little tricky when Mercury begins to station before it goes direct. So far, it's been a pretty benign on my end, Mercury retrograde, although I've had to deal with a few things, but it hasn't been terrible. I always find for me that Mercury retrograde tends to be a bit more difficult in the earth signs, whether it's Virgo, Taurus, or Capricorn. And so there's this, what's interesting about Mercury retrograde is that when it retrogrades, theoretically, it's actually closer to the earth. So we feel more of Mercury's effects. So going with that kind of pattern, that if Mercury is in Taurus or Virgo or Capricorn, those three signs being earth signs, that it would have more of an effect theoretically on our daily life or earth life. Air tends to be etheric. Right now, Mercury's in Cancer. It started off in Leo, fire, went backwards into Cancer. So we're dealing with emotional stuff, emotional issues, families, mothers, things like that. And we'll go forward again and go back into Leo. But I think it's a little more, for me at least, over all the years that I've looked at Mercury retrograde, experienced Mercury retrograde, I've found that when it's in the earth signs, it's probably the most impactful. And some of it has to do, because if you think about it, Mercury's moving away from the sun, right? Theoretically. So it's getting closer to Earth, theoretically. So if we're looking at sort of the geocosmic forces of Mercury, especially during the earth signs, it's going to impact this domain theoretically the most. Just my 2 cents of Mercury retrograde. Okay, why don't we get into the chart of the moment? Let me see if I can punch this bad boy up here. We got a lot to cover tonight, a lot of charts, a lot of crazy stuff. We're going to get into Bitcoin tonight because Bitcoin has been taking a beating. And I think it was last year, somebody asked me to do a thing on Bitcoin. And I looked at his chart and I said, it's going to go down in February. I think it was February of 2018, if I'm not mistaken, not 2019, February 2018. I said, it's going to go down. Bitcoin's going to go down. And I think you should, my advice was to probably to get out. I think that's what I was talking about. I see it, and that's exactly what happened. Bitcoin went down in February. Why did I know that? Well, I'll show you. Or how did I figure it out? I'll show you when we get to the chart. And I'm seeing that Bitcoin is going to be going through another troubling phase. It's already kind of there. Now, John McAfee, the crazy John McAfee we're going to talk about tonight, he says that Bitcoin is going to be fine. It's going to take off. It's going to go through kind of a major bull run here. Again, if it does, I think it'll be temporary, and I'll show you why. But we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to look at the chart of one crazy ass John McAfee. He's the guy. Whoa, I could probably do most of the show on him. So we're going to do McAfee's chart. A couple of weeks ago, not this Friday, but last Friday, I looked at JFK Jr.'s chart, And today, I believe, is Jackie, it would be Jackie Onassis Kennedy Bouvier Auchincloss's birthday. Today would be her birthday. So what I did is I pulled her chart up and I put together her chart versus or in relationship to Aristotle Onassis. So we're going to look at some of that tonight in terms of a synastry chart. And I put together, again, I took a stab at Ilhan Omar's chart. So we're going to take a look at her chart tonight. And then today is also Vida Blue's birthday. Vida Blue is a pitcher. He was a pitcher. He pitched for the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. And in 1971, Vida Blue had one of the best seasons ever for a major league pitcher, and it was his second year, and he won both the Most Valuable Player and the Cy Young Award. And we're going to look at his chart and specifically his first start of the 1971 season, which took place on April 9th, and how it set the tone for one of the best seasons ever for a major league pitcher, especially at his age. And it's really interesting to look at it from that perspective because you can see astrological timing at work. I wouldn't call it electional astrology because that's when you like when you want to get married. So well, what's a good day to get married on? By the way, if you're planning on getting married in October this year, don't do it. Don't do it. So some of the worst days I've seen to plan a marriage is this October. Bye, Jasper. See you later, buddy. It's not a good wedding season. I've looked at a bunch of stuff, not because I'm getting married, but I was trying to help somebody with a chart and look at marriage dates. It's not good. And normally people get married in October. I'd say probably the best time to get married would be like in August this year, once Mercury goes direct. Just my 2 cents. Because in October, what's going to happen is that there'll be a number of planets in the sign of Libra, and they'll be squaring off against Pluto and Saturn and the South Node and Chiron and Aries. It's you're getting T-squares all over the place in October. So, and a lot of people don't like to get married in November. It's very, very, it's dark. It's a dark time. It's the dimming of the light. It's Scorpio season. Although there's probably a good chance you get married in November, you stay together because Scorpio is a fixed sign. So if you can get over your aversion of getting married later in the year, I'd recommend November over October this year for weddings. There you go. All right, let's get into the chart of the moment. Let's see what we got going on here. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. Lot. Good stuff. Okay. Here we go. Chart of the moment. Capricorn on the ascendant. Give me 1 sec here. Let me do a little screen shareage. Bada boom. Oh, where'd you go? There it is. All right. So, chart of the moment. As we speak from Fredericksburg, Texas. Saturn Pluto conjunction. There they are, still hanging out. 12th house. Go deep. Capricorn on the ascendant. So maybe by the end of the show, we'll have that Aquarian ascendant. We'll check in at the end of the show right now. Intercepted house. So we got to get to the Aquarian part, right? This is what happens when you have an intercepted house. If you have an intercepted house or you have, well, let's just go with the intercepted house. If you have an intercepted house, in this case with 26 Capricorn, and then we've got Aquarius here and Pisces here, the whole idea of the intercepted house, let's say it's a natal chart, is to get this up here, right? To have more Aquarian elements on the ascendant. In one of the examples I love to use for this, happens to be a woman, wonderful, wonderful woman, a former student of mine, who has Capricorn rising and then Pisces down here, right here. Saturn in Pisces, Chiron in Pisces. You know, so you know she's born in 64. And I think right around, she was born, let's see, right around the end of 64, since she was herself a Capricorn, right? No. She's a Cancer. Cancer. Leo. She's a Leo. So August, born August of 64. All right. So what was interesting about her is that Capricorn rising, and she had moon in Capricorn, if I'm not mistaken. And so she was like, you know, I think I've talked about it before. She was really by the book. She did everything from a Capricornian rising perspective that a person would do. She was a high school cheerleader, straight A student, did all those Capricornian rising sorts of things, right? She married her high school sweetheart, who became a very well-known, highly paid physician, and, you know, made her life quite comfortable, did all the right things, right? And then she had this kind of, you know, mystical side, spiritual side with Pisces down here, and Saturn in Pisces is trying to get to in her life. Then she had this sort of chunk of Aquarius that she was always, I wouldn't say she was at odds with, but she was desperately trying to get to. And she would get to this through astrology, not necessarily using astrology. That was not her forte, by the way. But she got behind an astrologer, not me, a different astrologer. And so she was able to access her first house in this Aquarian material through another person. And, you know, wound up doing a lot of like webinars and publishes books and stuff, right? So she was able to get to this Aquarian piece through an outside kind of entity. This, again, Aquarius ruling astrology, in my estimation. She did it with an astrologer. She tried to kind of nail down astrology herself, and wasn't really working. You know, she was better at other things. She was really, really good at helping this dude, right? She's really good at that. She's really good at publishing his books. She's really good at booking his webinars. That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to. Not everybody has to know or learn or understand astrology. A little bit is nice. It's good. I think it's good working knowledge. But the idea here is to access this hidden part, right? This hidden part. I have it in my chart. I've talked about this before. I'm a Scorpio rising, and I have Sagittarius right here. Now I do have an intercepted house too, because my my second house is Capricorn. So I do have an intercepted house in the first. And you'll see intercepted houses almost always in the first and the seventh, right? In the seventh, it's a really interesting study, because this is the gateway of the seventh house, which is the sign that's on the cusp. So theoretically, let's say somebody was born during this time. This is their birth chart. What would be important for them would be safety and security in relationship. This is the sort of the gateway, right? Cancer is secure, it's safe, it's nurturing. So this person would need that. And then somewhere in the middle, they'd have to experience something more than that. They'd have to experience romance, heat, love, amour, right? Passion. So it starts with security, comfort, safety, bonding. But here in the intercepted part, the real meat of this, what they really want is they want blood, they want love, they want heat. And then here on the other side, where you don't see it, the eighth house, you're Virgo. So going to the eighth house, there's a whole other kind of set of parameters that would have to be addressed. In this case, it would be the puritanical feeling of the eighth house, which would kind of, how do I say this? It would it would express itself sexually in some ways. That the person may have puritanical ideas about sexuality with Virgo in the 8th house. It doesn't mean they couldn't have it, or they may really feel like, hey, I'm going to have sex and intimacy, but it's going to have to line up a certain way. You know, that somebody, you know, may have, you know, issues, not issues, but they may honor things like their virginity or abstinence on some level, right? Like it has to line up. And when it lines up, then they could open up and let go in the 8th house. You look at Virgo, it's very telltale, right? You see the M here, and then the tail of the M comes in, and it crosses the legs, which we've talked about before. It's like, you're not getting in there, okay? And especially in the 8th house. So there's got to be criterion. The criterion has got to be love, number one. The person's got to feel safe, secure. Cancer there, then there's got to be love. Can't just have, you know, safety and security. That's not going to work. But you have safety, security, love, and guess what? The 8th house opens. And then the person could experience intimacy on their terms, which for them would be aligned with something theoretically pure, or it would relate to their version of morality. And then out of that, there would be the relationship with Libra, which would be joining and balance, and essentially two people becoming one, right? So, but the real key here is this part, the intercepted part. It starts here, goes here, and then theoretically, we get a very, very different part of the story here. Now, with my chart, I have an intercepted house, and it's Taurus here, Gemini here, and then over here, it's Cancer. So again, Gemini's sort of buried in my 7th house. And that's a whole different story. But this would be important for this person. What else do we have here? Tonight, we have our friend, the inconjunct. And that's Mars in conjunct Neptune, Mars in conjunct Saturn. Okay, how do we get to the inconjunct? Well, the inconjunct is a 150-degree aspect. So in this case, Neptune is within that 150-degree range, give or take 3 degrees maximum, okay? If it's outside of 3 degrees, it won't qualify as an inconjunct. Same thing over here with Saturn. What do we have here? Saturn at 15, Mars at 17, that's -2. Neptune at 18, Mars at 17, that's -1. And what else do we have? Well, we have the sextile that we've been talking about over the course of the last few months, with Saturn, Pluto, sextiling Neptune. Now, what do we have? Oh, yeah, we've got a yod. We got a yod, also known as the finger of God, which is interesting. So this is a person, if this was a person, okay, let's say it was a person, how I would interpret this is that they would be given over to fits of passion, right, with the inconjunct with Neptune, that once all the criterion were made or were satisfied to be in relationship, that they could give themselves over. Because, you know, what this inconjunct is about with Neptune, it's about letting go, right? Like once all this would be met, there could be a tremendous sense of letting go and being very into the potential for passion inside of the relationship, okay? But it's more complex than that as well, as we'll find out. Over here, we have Saturn, Pluto in conjunct Mars. And to me, how I would look at this is that the father would play a very significant role in determining just how this person would use their energy, especially inside a relationship. That they'd have to shake the father in some ways. Why? Because Saturn is the father in the chart. So in order for this person to be truly independent, to find themselves, their passion, their connection inside a relationship, they probably would have to do something to distance themselves from the father in a certain way. And that would be you have a relationship or a bond, perhaps, with somebody that the father may not really appreciate or like, if that's what they wanted to do, or if they needed to do that. And again, with the in conjunct with Neptune, it would kind of qualify for that as well, because sometimes Neptune can bring a whole interesting cast of characters into our life, you know? So this person would ultimately have to find their own energy, but they would have to find their own energy in relationship, because that's where Mars is, and they'd have to find it in this kind of hermetically sealed chamber of the seventh house in some ways, because of the intercepted house. And then they'd have to deal with the conditioning, ultimately the deconditioning of the inconjuncts. So pretty interesting. The other thing too is that this person might also have either dependencies or habits that they themselves may not be willing to cop to or deal with, right? Because anytime we have a relationship with Neptune and Mars, if it's a square, if it's specifically it's a square, the Neptune-Mars square, Neptune-Mars opposition, we're dealing with levels of dependency, levels of habituation. There can be addiction issues with Mars, Neptune. So this would be something that they would deal with in an underlying way. And where would they deal with it? They would deal with it in relationship, right? Relationship. And this is a person who could have real issues with money, right? With Neptune in the second house, and you know how that's used in relation to relationship. But ultimately, a very forceful personality with Mars here. Mars being the highest planet of the chart would be at apex as well. Again, this is all sort of fictitious. So if you know anybody that was born at 7:54 on the 28th of July, 2019, keep them away from your granddaughters and grandsons. No, I'm just kidding. But let's bring this back to the chart of the moment, right? So what does this mean with this in conjunct here and now? Well, Mars in Leo is very dominant. You're dealing with a fixed sign. Mars is still in a trine with Jupiter. It's been in that trine with Jupiter for the last few days, for like the last 4 or 5 days. It started to move out of orb a little bit, but it's still there. And it's still, you know, it's a hot Mars. It's moved into the second decan, which puts it into the Sagittarian decan. By the time it's all said and done, it gets into that third decan. It's moved into the Aries decan. That's going to be, what, about 3 days from now? So Mars is actually positioned fairly well, with the exception of this in conjunct. Okay, so why don't we do this? If I can, let me see if I can flip this, because this gets back to the stuff around Trump. Because this Mars, right? Oh, this will be interesting. Why don't we, man, okay, hold on. Man, I wish I could do this. Okay, so this Mars at 17 degrees, because Trump is was 28, I think he's 28 Leo rising. So this Mars would be over here in his 12th house, which is hidden enemies. And what do we have here? We have the in conjunct. Okay, so what was one of the groups? Was it the Navy? Was it Navy SEALs? That'd be Neptune. That'd be Neptune and Pisces. And was there another group involved too? I think there was another group. Here we go. So why don't we, God, I wish I could do this. Let me see if I can, here, let's do this. I'm gonna do like because this is an interesting kind of deep to what we're talking about. Screen grab there, and then why don't I go to Trump's chart, and that way you guys can have a look here. Let me do this. Get rid of this. Let's go over here. Give me one sec. We go back and forth. So let's go here. Let's go to, where is he? Drop right there. Okay, so let's get into some transits. And let's just do down and dirty right here. Here we go. Okay, so remember now, here's Mars, okay, 12th house, hidden enemies. So remember that in conjunct would be Mars going to here or Saturn going to here, right? Right here, and then Neptune going right here. So this would be the yod. And if it was the Navy SEALs, then it would be Neptune. Neptune at this point is right on the cusp of Trump's 8th house, which is hidden, occulted. This is the sex stuff, the sex house right here, right, the 8th house. And the South Node would be right about here as well. 5th house, dealing with children, dealing with Capricorn entities, past loves, love affairs, and also bureaucracies with Saturn here. So it's very interesting. Very interesting. So I would say that with the Neptune Saturn sextile, it's actually Neptune Pluto. Saturn's in the mix though, because of the degree with Mars here. That there's some validity. I think that whatever is being sort of tossed out there around this stuff, based on what I'm seeing in the chart, there's validity to it. From an astrological perspective, I would say yes, especially with Neptune. And we're dealing with what, Navy SEALs, right? The ISIS stuff, I don't know. I'd have to wrap my head around that a little bit. That'd be more like 8th house stuff, 9th house stuff. For Trump, Uranus up here, transiting the 9th house. Where's the sun? The sun is at 20, sun's at 5. So yeah, so transiting sun now in his 12th house, Uranus is also what, at 5? Where is it? Right here. Uranus is at 6. 9th house, foreign countries, other ideologies, radicals with Uranus, distant places, radical philosophies and religions, possibly. Maybe the ISIS stuff could have some traction here with that Uranus Sun square in the 12th house. He's not out of the woods though. He's definitely not out of the woods. He's going to have this Mars-Mars conjunction. But I'll tell you what I think this Mars-Mars conjunction is. This is somebody who's going to fucking fight. He's going to go off, man. He's going to go off. It's been 2 years since Mars has been here. You know, he had that Mars-Mars conjunction headed into the, was it 2017, right? So it was just after the election. So 2-year cycle. I think there's hell to pay here with this Mars-Mars conjunction coming up. It's going to be very interesting. So why don't we just do a quick, let's just do a quick search on that. Let's go here. So I can just go backwards. Let's go to 21st century. 21st century is yesterday. Remember that? All right, here we go. Let's go. 2019. Man, we're gonna be out of the teens soon. God, blows my mind. Okay, so here we go. Looking for Mars at 29. So these are the dates right here. The 6th would be right around the 15th, 16th, 17th. So the 17th of August is a very interesting day. It's a very interesting day. Now, I've heard that the 17th of August is a day that they celebrate Lucifer. It's like Lucifer's day is August 17th. That's what I've heard. And well, why is that? Well, theoretically, Lucifer is also our friend who stole fire from the gods, the sun, right? So this being the 17th of August under the sign of Leo, Leo the sun and fire, that theoretically this day right here represents the celebration of Lucifer. It's also the day where Mars is going to be on Trump's ascendant. Very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. Let me make sure that I just want to make sure I got this right with the whole Lucifer thing. Give me a second here. Pretty sure that that's the day. Let me salute to Lucifer Con, Los Angeles, August 17th through 18th, 2019. There we go. Right there. There's a convention. It's going to see. Let me show you. In Los Angeles. This it is. Hold on a second. Oh wow, interesting here too. Look at that. So Lucifer is playing at the Great American Music Hall on August 7th. Oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah, okay, so August 17th. And con. At the also Mars Leo. How about that? Pretty trippy, huh? Pretty trippy. Let me get back to the main. Wow. Very interesting stuff. What do we just have here? What do we just have? No audio. What happened to my audio? Is my audio gone? Shouldn't be gone. Let me get back. Hold on. I just got a tweet, a text. Let me get back to you. Let me get back to center here. Can you guys hear me? Tommy, can you hear me? Let's see. You're back now. It's back. Okay. Please go back over the last 4 minutes. Okay. The last one. Okay, so here's okay. So August 17th, theoretically, is a day that celebrates Lucifer, aka Prometheus. That is when Mars will be at 28, 29 degrees on Trump's ascendant. Okay. Now I found two events which are very interesting, and they're happening both on the 17th of August. Number one, there is a group named Lucifer that is playing at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. And there is a celebration called Lucifer Con, which is taking place in Los Angeles at the Hyatt Regency. So this gets into the Gemini effect of these two events that are taking place simultaneously. So this August 17th is essentially a celebration of lights, a celebration of Prometheus, of stealing the fire, and of Lucifer. And part of the Lucifer convention is has to do with the TV series, which has now been renewed. Okay. So anyway, I was just making some connections in real time. What does that mean for Trump? I think Trump I think Trump is going to. Here's what I think. I think he's going to fire back. Whatever's been happening behind the scenes, I believe it'll take place above the line, because this is going to be right on his ascendant. So you want to look at the 16th of August, 17th, which is a very strange night. It's the night that's the celebration of Lucifer and Prometheus, the thief of light, and the thief of fire, and the thief in general, right? Seen them all, the Lucifer show. Yeah. Sorry about that with the audio. I don't know what happened. Good. Well, it'll give him some impetus. He's got Mars on the ascendant. It says Mars return. Whenever you have your Mars return astrologically, the energies are very powerful, very, very powerful, and happens once every 2 years. So it's a really good time to initiate something. So I think probably Trump is going to, he's going to be doing some ass kicking. That's what I think. I think by that time, everybody who's been trying to foul this process, get him out, it will probably have been played out, very little energy, and I think that's when the gloves come off. So look for the 16th of August to be a significant day, because shit happens on Fridays, right? And again, the 17th is basically the celebration of Lucifer, August 17th. There you go. If they don't, Trump got rid of Coates. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Absolutely. So there's stuff that's happening. It's kind of amazing to kind of watch. It's and look, I don't think Trump is clean, by the way. I think Trump's got some serious skeletons. I'm not sitting here, banging the marching drum for Trump. I think he's got serious skeletons. I also think that everybody who's been a president over the last 50 years has serious skeletons, with maybe the exception of Jimmy Carter. Everybody else has been extremely dirty. And I don't think it's a position you get to without either being compromised or having compromising material on other people, or rubbing shoulders with gangsters, hookers, liars, thieves, banksters, con men. You don't get there. It's part of the territory. It is part of the territory. And I think that people need to disabuse themselves of the notion that anybody who's ever going to step foot in that office, is ever going to be tighty-whitey. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. And I guess the real proof of the pudding, as they say, is what happens between the lines. Once you step onto the field, what takes place? Is stuff getting done? Are there changes? Are there things on the surface that look like they're actually moving in a different direction? And with Trump, I think you get mixed. You'll do one thing, it's go, one thing, what? Like he's after Bitcoin like crazy right now. He's after the cryptocurrencies like crazy. And there are a lot of people who are, in the Trump world, who are more libertarian, on the libertarian side. Trump has basically told the IRS to go after cryptocurrency holders. Okay, so he wants a gold standard. Of course, he's a Leo rising. He'd want a gold standard. Go look at Trump Tower. His place, the executive suite at the top of Trump Tower, is a pay-in to Apollo, the sun god, and it's basically clad in gold, right? It's swathed in gold. So yeah, maybe he wants to go over to the gold standard. But if you're somebody who's really into cryptocurrency, wanting to de-link theoretically from the Federal Reserve, well, you may think that that's not really all that good. It's one of those things that Trump doesn't show up for. Then maybe other things that Trump does show up for. So you're always going to get that with him. This is the way it is. Sun Uranus conjunction. It's the way it is. Some stuff will be really good and cool and interesting. And other stuff, you're like, what the fuck? Why are you doing that? You know? It's like the border. The border's a mess. The only thing I can think of is it's gonna be so bad that at some point they're letting it become so bad that at some point they can find a permanent solution for it. That's the only thing I could think of. Other than that, there's just no excuse for it. None whatsoever. But again, it's on his watch. So it'll be interesting. I think again with the Mars return, I think the the flamethrower comes out. That's how I see it. Anyway, why don't we get into some stuff? Hold on, I didn't really finish the chart of the moment because it's just a few things for the week ahead that I think are kind of worth looking into. So let me just get back there, just for a minute or two. So I got his chart. But yeah, I think what happened with the stuff in DC is real, based on the yacht and the in conjuncts with Saturn and Neptune, right? Mars in his 12th house. I'd co-sign on that, definitely. Okay, let me just get back to the chart of the moment. Got to do a thorough job here. Give me 1 second. And hopefully my audio will stay intact. It doesn't go all over the place again. All right, so we will have a new moon coming up here in a couple of days. Correcto mundo. So we have moon in Gemini right now, and we're going to have a 48-hour period with the moon in Cancer. So roughly 3 days from now, I haven't looked at the exact timing, we're going to have the new moon in Leo. So that's going to happen this week. So what are we talking? Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. New moon in Leo, which I like. I like moon in Leo. It's great. I think people with moon in Leo are warm, they're loving, they're kind. Sometimes it can be a tad narcissistic, but hey, it goes along with the sign. But I think it's a nice placement for the moon. People with moon in Leo can be very, very generous. They love children. Absolutely love children, like entertaining. It can be very popular people. But we have a new moon conjunction in Leo. We've got Venus in Leo. We've got Mars in Leo. So we've got a nice little Leo stellium going down. That's creative. That's fun. Speaking of Leo, look who's back. He said, oh, Leo. Did I hear leonine? Did I hear something about lion? No, I'm talking about Leo, the sun, the sign. This is, I like this new moon coming up. I like it. Yeah, it's going to square Uranus. That's okay. You can have the opportunity to break out emotionally during this upcoming new moon. That if you are stuck in a rut, this new moon says, get out of the rut. Try something different. Do something different. Have a different approach. Have a very, very different approach. And also, I think part of, we get so into the seriousness of our times. And let's face it, there is a high degree of seriousness because there's a lot of shit going on right now. And we're seeing it. People are getting up to speed very quickly, very, very quickly. And people are popping red pills right and left, right? But don't forget to have fun. Don't forget to enjoy yourself. And this upcoming new moon is an opportunity to set the dial. Set the dial for WFUN, right? That's what you need to do. Have some fun. Enjoy yourself. Do something recreational. Dance, play, listen to music. This is a good time to do that. So we're talking Wednesday, Thursday. Have a reset. Get out of your ruts. It'll be good for you. Really good for you. That new moon is going to transition very, very quickly and get into a nice trine with Jupiter. Allow your heart to find something that you really enjoy. Because what's happening with the world around us, they're taking away the joy. It's almost like they're siphoning off our joy and sending it out to some other part of the universe, right? Or some other dimension. And people just walking around us soulless zombies for the most part. And if somebody else is having fun, or somebody else is laughing, or somebody else is, having a a humorous moment, the soulless zombies are dispatched. You know, what they recently did is it was yesterday, they took away Instagram, like closed accounts that had millions and millions of people following people that do memes. Shut them down. Shut them down. Retrograded them right out of Instagram. Of course, Instagram is owned by Facebook. And what do memes do? Memes poke fun. They poke fun. Oh, you can't do that. You can't be satirical. Oh, no, you can't do that. You're having fun at somebody else's expense. No. You know, sometimes you need to be able to play the fool and shake a stick at something. Well, we talked about this with Chris and Steve. You know, the age of satire is coming to an end because satire can be misconstrued as having fun at somebody else's expense, or oh, we can't do that. But the memes bypass rational thought process, and they bypass the algorithms. That's the other thing. Memes bypass algorithms. So instead of, you know, these people who, you know, want to basically control and contort your consciousness, instead of coming up with better and funnier memes, they'll just say, fuck you, we're going to shut them down. And that's what happens. That's what happens in a state-sponsored and controlled environment. They just start taking speech away, and things are becoming absolutely, utterly humorless. So with the new moon in Leo squaring Uranus, I expect some pranksters. It's kind of like that billboard in LA for the new Tarantino film, where they had the pedo stuff and they put Jeffrey Epstein and Roman Polanski's picture in the Tarantino movie. That billboard, that's you know, that's agitprop. That's pranksterish agitprop. Somebody did that to Trump, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was actually kind of funny. It was, I mean, it works. This stuff works both ways. It was actually kind of funny. He did a live event in Florida, and they had the presidential seal on the right side of him, and the presidential seal was a two-headed eagle, and in the eagle's claws there were golf clubs. So of course the two-headed eagle is a symbol of Russia, and instead of the arrows of victory, the eagle had golf clubs. So somebody was fired for this too, by the way. Somebody hacked Trump and put that up as the presidential seal. Now, I happen to think that that's kind of funny. I do. Because you can't have humor if you can't laugh in both directions. It was actually, I think, pretty clever in some ways. Anyway, I expect more of this with the new moon coming into Leo, squaring off against Uranus. And the attempt to have humor, once again, be an important part of our lives. Okay, why don't I get out of the chart of the moment? Let's get into some other charts. We've been kind of jamming here for about an hour. Let's bring some other stuff in. So let's see, who did I want to get up here first? All right, so, my God, why don't I do John McAfee? I'm sure you guys are familiar with John McAfee. If you're not, should be. This guy's a trip, man. He's a total trip. He's the guy that created McAfee Security Solutions. Okay. So let me show you his picture just so we get a facial on McAfee. Facial on McAfee. That's going in a dark place. All right, so there's the man. Bitcoin price will recover insanely soon. John McAfee. Okay, so John McAfee, you gotta watch Gringo, which is this documentary that was done on McAfee. And McAfee got into security software early on, was living in Silicon Valley, and he figured out that there were these things called computer viruses that were starting to proliferate. And the one that really grabbed everybody's attention was the Da Vinci virus. And I think he probably created that virus. knowing what I know now about this guy, I wouldn't put that above him. So what he did is he became the de facto expert on internet security and keeping your computer safe. And McAfee was bundled with like 76% of every computer sold in this country. And that's a lot. It's a lot of computers. You have to think that maybe about 15% of those computers are probably Apple's. Then they don't need the software. So well, it's right around what, 91, so maybe about 8 to 9% of the computers sold in this country during a certain part of time did not have McAfee bundled software. It was huge. McAfee made a ton of money, a shitload of money, because he figured this thing out. You know, his father committed suicide when he was young. He was born in England, and that plays a role here in his chart and the story that we're going to kind of unravel with John McAfee. He grew up in Virginia. Okay, so what do we have in Virginia? Virginia is the home of the CIA. Now, I would think that John McAfee probably would have had CIA connections somewhere along the way. Growing up in Virginia, studying computer science, which at that time was a pretty unusual business and line of study to get into. Okay, so I would assume that he would have had company connections a lot. This is an assumption on my part, but I think it's a good assumption. So he made a shitload of money, but he's crazy. He ran McAfee like a cult, and he hired a bunch of people that he knew. And there's this picture in the movie of him at his Christmas party, and he's dressed as Satan. Okay, and apparently there were witches that he employed at McAfee Software, which doesn't surprise me. So the people who ran McAfee, they realized that they couldn't keep him around. He was a loose cannon. So they bought him out. They must have bought him out for a lot of money. So then what he did is he left and he went to Colorado and he started a meditation retreat. He got 280 acres in Colorado, started meditating, and he wrote all these books on consciousness. The guy became a guru. And then he sold that and he got bored with being a guru and he moved to Belize, and that's where all the shit happens, in Belize. And his life takes on this bizarre twist and tail. I mean, just bizarre. And he's been in the news recently because he was actually captured just off the coast of the Dominican Republic in a boat. And he's been out to sea because he is on the run. Now remember, this is a guy that ran for president in 2016. He finished second to Gary Johnson as their libertarian candidate. This is after he had left Belize, basically after murdering his neighbor who killed his dogs. I'm telling you, man, John McAfee is a fucking trip. He's beyond the trip. So he leaves Belize, goes to Florida, and all of a sudden he becomes, and when he was in Belize, he was like Colonel Kurtz. He was totally like Colonel. You'll see this when I get into his chart. He was a total Colonel Kurtz character. He had these thugs that were his own private army in Belize. So he leaves Belize, comes back to the United States after his neighbor dies mysteriously, shot to the head, actually. Not too mysterious about that. And then he goes to Florida and he starts to basically clean up his image. He rehabs his image. He becomes the security guru again. Security's all the rage on computers. And so he winds up running for president. Who does this shit? Who does this? Then he leaves again. Now, apparently, from what I've heard, that drone footage that was at Epstein Island, McAfee took it. McAfee has his drone. And if McAfee has as much wherewithal with codes and security and the internet this guy might have the goods on a lot of people. He just might. Okay, and he's no hero. Trust me. He's a total nut job. He's about as nutty as a payday bar. He was born in England. Remember that, because that's where he is now. They got him. They got him in the Dominican Republic. He had a bunch of guns. Guy loves guns. A bunch of guns on his boat. Had his wife. They held him, and then they let him go. You know, the IRS wants him. This is the guy that started the Monero. He started a cryptocurrency, and it floats at around $70 on the exchanges. He's a big crypto guy, of course. And he said, "Oh, I want to go to England." So they sent him to England. They flew him to England. He got on a plane, Dominican Republic. Well, why? Because he was born in England. He's born in Gloucestershire, in England. Now he says that he's going to run for prime minister. He said that, do you know anybody who can run for prime minister and president and probably do both? No, there's only one man, and that's me. This guy is like crazy, strange, wild, bizarre, highly entertaining, and dangerous as hell. Really, really, really dangerous. Okay. So let me grab his chart. And now I kind of rectified his chart. Whoa, what a dude. And not in a good way. All right. So here we go. So this is what I came up with McAfee. Because one of the things that he is apparently people say he's paranoid, right? He's paranoid. So I threw up here Scorpio rising, and he's always on the run, 29 degrees. I just threw it up there. And it kind of makes sense because his sun is in Virgo. The guy's a Virgo at 25 degrees. And here it's on the midheaven. And he's got a bunch of stuff in the 8th house hidden, right? Mars in the 8th, true node in the 8th, Saturn in the 8th. His father committed suicide. So that seemed to be fairly appropriate in some ways. And then, you know, fairly strong 8th, 9th house because he's moving all the time. He's all over the place. You know, Mercury is the planet of movement. He's in Belize, he's in Guatemala, he's in Florida, he's in the Dominican Republic, he's in Colorado. Now he's in England, right? So I thought, okay, it makes a bit sense. And he's got this wacky ass moon in Aquarius, which I'm going to get into, because the moon is the home, right? And he's had very bizarre living situations, especially in the Dominican Republic, about as bizarre as it gets. And Uranus and Gemini showing up here in the 7th house, which is unusual partners. But oh boy, did he have some unusual partners and some very unusual needs. All right, so let's get back to this dude. He's got the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, and he's got a trine to the moon. He's kind of into gangs in some ways. I almost thought about like putting Jupiter and Neptune in the 11th house because of his affiliation with really dangerous people, which he loves to surround himself with. He loves to surround himself with killers and sociopaths. He loves them, loves them. And I think the trine to the moon might work because the moon is the home, and his home, like I said, in the movie, you'll see it. It's like a fortified compound, and he's got a harem. John McAfee had a harem, and he had a harem, Uranus, Gemini, right? 7th house relationship. He had a harem with local girls. Gemini tends to be local. So he was getting these young girls from Belize, sort of the streets of Belize. And he would pay them good money. He was paying them like $800 to $900 a day. Could you imagine that? $800 to $900 a day, and you're like this dirt poor girl. And I'm talking girls, like 17, 18, 19 years old. Can you imagine that? You get $800 to $900 a day. And you know what the only thing that they had to do? The only thing they had to do was shit in his mouth. That's it. That's the only thing they had to do. John McAfee was not into sex. He was not into sex. He was into shit. So I swear to God, it's in the movie. You'll see it. If you haven't seen the movie, look it up. So what he would do is all these girls would talk about, they would talk about the hammock. And you're sitting there going, okay, what do you do with the hammock? Oh, you cut a hole in the hammock. So what does he do? There's like some weird like sex position thing, some flying hammock thing. No, you cut a hole in the hammock, and guess what they do? They'd lay down and put their bum over the hole, and then they would open the hatch. So, ironically, I think it's in his chart. I think it's Pluto. I think it's Pluto, and I think it's right there with the moon. The Pluto-Moon opposition. One of the things that we see with both Pluto, with the moon, and the sign of Cancer, is what? Some degree of oral fixation. Well, why do I say that? Because when we think of Cancer, what do we think of? We think of mothers, right? The mother. What does the mother do? The mother sustains the child. How does the mother do that? The mother does that by feeding the child with her breasts, right? So as people, men and women, what happens? One of our first moments of oral fixity is with our mothers. So Cancer is a sign that is connected to that, right? What has he got? He's got Saturn in Cancer, Mars in Cancer, True Note in Cancer, 8th house. What is the 8th house? It's dark. It's dank. It's the underworld, right? That's what it is. But the moon is the ruler of Cancer. Doesn't matter what sign it's in. And what do we have here? Well, we got a Pluto-Moon opposition. And what is Pluto? Pluto is dark stuff, right? It's the occult. It's dark. It's intense. You know, it's right there. Right there. And he's got, people that have moon in Aquarius. Look, and this is not to offend any moon Aquarius people out there. Okay? But you know who you are. I'm just kidding. People that moon Aquarius, they've got some different kinds of, how shall we say this, fetishes. It's true. It's very true. I've seen this. I've seen it in a relationship. Trust me, I've seen it. They've got different kinds of fetishes. I do this gal, really nice person. We were very close on Facebook for a while. In fact, she even wrote an article for me on my website at the time. And moon in Aquarius, and there were some very unusual things about her, which I don't really want to share. But one of the things that she really got into was she really, really got into like corsets. And like, like having, really, really tight things around her. It was sort of like, borderline bondage fetish stuff, borderline. But there was also a sense that people that have moon in Aquarius, and I've seen this again, are voyeuristic. That for them, with the moon in Aquarius, it is so detached. It is so sort of, how do I say this, objectified, that it enters into the realm of voyeurism. And they have a very unique way of experiencing intimacy. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, and not every moon in Aquarius person is the same. They're not. They're not the same. But I'll tell you a page from my past. I'll give you a little page from my. I don't want to. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. Let's just say I knew a guy. Let's say I knew a guy who had a girlfriend or a person he was seeing, and this person would have these fantasies about this friend of mine who would basically be engaged in sexual intimacy in front of this other person so they could watch. Okay. And there's no value judgments there. That's what they were into. So this friend of mine had this person they were dealing with, and it was quite unusual at times. Not that it ever happened to my friend. Let's be upfront about that. Didn't happen to my friend. But Moon in Aquarius, I'm telling you. Moon in Aquarius, okay? And with Pluto, so we have the oral fixation with the moon. And here's Pluto. It's like, look out down below, John McAfee. There it is, right there. He didn't have to do anything. They asked every single one of his girlfriends, the unusual relationship, the kink, right? Did you ever have to have sex with them? No, no, no. They just had to feed him breakfast every morning. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Anyway, there we go. There's Pluto there, right? But also he has Venus in the 9th house. So I bet you he had a weird relationship with his mother, man. Weird, right? What went on with him and his mother? And his father committing suicide? That's heavy stuff, right? Very, very heavy stuff. Moon Pluto opposition. Very interesting. Anyway, Venus in the 9th house would be relationships with women from other countries, which is what he did. He had relationships with all these gals from Belize, right? Venus, 9th house. In Leo, apparently there are times he could be really generous, but then he would go into this other mode and he would flip and he'd become completely and utterly freaking nuts. He's got a Sun Uranus square. That's a rule breaker. This is a guy that's not going to play by the rules. Sun Uranus square, forget about it. Forget about it. And he always makes everything about him. Everything is about John McAfee. John McAfee and his drama. It's always about him. But he's definitely a rebellious, Luciferic character with the Sun Uranus square. Totally. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here, a lot of secrets. And I would say with Saturn in the 8th house, he might have some government secrets. With the sextile to the sun. He's got weird tweets, by the way. He's got tweets about eating babies. I mean, he's got a lot of pedophile clues in his tweets. I'm not sure he's a pedophile, though. I'm not saying he isn't a pedophile. I don't think he would do that unless it was baby poop. And that'd be different, right? I don't know what the market is for baby poop. I haven't looked onto the baby poop exchange or the poop exchange. I don't think he is, although he does have his Pluto and Leo. I don't think that's his thing, man. But he talks about it. He talks about this stuff. He says, basically, when people called him out about his shit eating, I mean, that's weird. That's really, really weird. But if you think about it, not that I would recommend it, but if you think about it, let's say you actually ate shit like John McAfee, that in some ways you wouldn't eat shit metaphorically. You know, it'd be like this weird trade-off. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, you know, by eating shit, you don't eat shit from anybody else. I don't know. I'm not advocating it. Trust me. It's not a psychological strategy. But I'm just thinking maybe in his mind that switch goes off. Can you believe that? Like the Libertarian Party almost had as their candidate for president a bona fide shit eater. Blows my mind. Anyway, he's got Mercury in Virgo, so he's smart, right? Squares Uranus. Again, he's a rule breaker. I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote some of the codes for the computer viruses, would not be surprised at all. And he's got this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Libra. So, you know, it's at 5 degrees exact and squaring off against Mars. That's addiction. I think he's addicted to poop. Definitely. No, there's an addiction here with the Mars square to Neptune, with the Mars square to Jupiter. Again, the only thing I think I would change, might be a little bit different, is maybe to get Jupiter Neptune closer to his 11th house in these weird relationships that he has. Yeah, because Neptune does represent, you know, sort of this very wide variance, or you know, with, you know, people in high places, and then, you know, the rogues gallery that McAfee hangs out with. So the Jupiter, I guess he's like generous to knaves, right? And he's got this Moon Uranus trine going on too. That's interesting. So he's got a weird emotional wiring. But Jupiter's in his first house. He's on the run, and never a dull moment with John McAfee. But apparently he's the guy that had the drone footage of Epstein Island. Would not be surprised if he knows stuff about Epstein. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Not at all. And anyway, there you go. This is, again, I threw this chart up there thinking 29 Scorpio because he's a paranoid fuck, really paranoid. And then with the sun on the midheaven, because he's always out there. He never goes away, never. He's out in public view. And of course, the unusual relationship or relationships with local women who just feed him breakfast every morning. Okay, we got to stop the screen share there with McAfee. Let's see what you guys have to say. What's Maurice saying here? What's Maurice talking about? Maurice trying to get a hold of me. See what he's got. Check your mic connection. That was a while ago. I think we're back, right? Thanks, Maurice. Appreciate that. I think we're back though, right? So what do you think? What do you guys think of the McAfee stuff? Dogs eat poo when they're low in mineral content. He's like a modern pirate. He is, right? The Allen brothers. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Gigi Allen used to eat his shit, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So you guys, the McAfee stuff is crazy, right? You should watch that video. Watch that documentary. Check it out. It's crazy, crazy. I think it's the Moon Pluto. That was a good good connection. Spirocosmos art. Father J. Parker, Albert Parker. Happy birthday, creator. Let's see. Is it possible to finally hear it all? Yeah, Paul, I'm back. He's addicted to poop. You're killing me. He is. We were watching the video last night. We couldn't stop laughing with some of the scatological references. So I was saying, so does he talk to his girls like the night before? Does he plan their menus? Like, you know, I really want you to eat some corn tonight, baby. I really want you to eat some here's some nice roasted corn. Because I kind of like the pop that I get. I love that secondhand pop, you know. Do you think he does that? Really tonight, man, I want you to have some cashews tonight. Some cashews and corn. That's John McAfee. He's out there making a difference. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Yeah, I know all about Jay's father. New meaning for shitty breath. Yes. Yeah, showed that. I don't know why it's not showing. There you go, Joe. I freed your comment. I totally freed your comment. The McAfee diet. The McAfee diet. High in fiber, nuts and corn. Coming to a health educator near you, the McAfee diet. Okay. Let's see. Stop. I've had patients who eat their poop and they seem to have almost superhuman muscle power. Oh yeah, there we go. Superhuman muscle power. Maybe that's it. You know, there's that movie by not movie, it's a book. Shippy made a movie. It's called, I think it's called The Devil's Angels by Robertson Davies, the Canadian writer. And he gets into this whole thing about and apparently there's a whole science about determining people's like personality type and all kinds of things from their shit. It's in that book. It's a lot more there to meet the eye, for sure. All right, so let's get into another chart here. Let's take John McAfee and the McAfee diet off the chart. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have? Oh, okay, it's a good segue to Bitcoin. I was looking at Bitcoin's chart. And so the time I used for Bitcoin was right around the first Bitcoin that was actually purchased. It was in Phoenix, Arizona. So it was pretty, I think it's a pretty accurate chart that I put together here for Bitcoin. And when I saw when the South Node was going to go into Aquarius, I knew Bitcoin was going to go into the tank because Bitcoin is powered by this Aquarian stellium. Mercury, True Node, Chiron, Neptune, right? So when the South Node started to come in, it was pretty easy to predict. And I saw it right around, it was February roughly. Was it 2017, if I'm not mistaken? Right, am I right? Right, 2017, 2018. It's 2018. And I said, okay, this is where Bitcoin's it's gonna start to tank. And it did. And some people actually listened to me and got out of Bitcoin, and they actually kept their money, right? So McAfee says that Bitcoin is going to go on a big run. So I wanted to see if that's really the case. And one of the things that Bitcoin has against it right now is right in here, because Bitcoin is a Capricornian entity, right? So it was developed by high-level people. It was developed by people that had significant, obviously, tech knowledge, but also banking knowledge as well. And there are people that are connected to Tracy Twyman, who that group, who know the guy who did the Bitcoin stuff, the Satoshi guy, okay? But that doesn't happen without some level of cover with Capricorn here, in some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, enabling and some kind of contractual agreement, let's put it that way. But the idea and the spirit here is very, very Aquarian. Now, Bitcoin will have its Jupiter return coming, and there's a chance that it may go through a run here, but it's got some serious issues. And the issues are the South Node, which is right here. It's just right above the sun here, right above the sun. And I think the bigger issue with Bitcoin, to be honest with you, is the Neptune opposition to Saturn. And that's going to get more and more intense, shall we say, over the next year to 2 years. Saturn, of course, represents hierarchies, governments. The third house is it's information, not necessarily computers, but it's information. And then the ninth house represents bigger thoughts. It's not information, it's like concepts, philosophies, the big idea, foreign countries, right? So I think probably Bitcoin will proliferate on the exchanges in foreign countries, and very specific ones, more than it will in the US. Already, I think there are exchanges that are leaving, they're getting out. Like they're not allowing because I think the IRS wants that fucking money. The IRS wants that shit, right? Trump sent out these letters, and they're going after. They know exactly where these trades are. They can trace this stuff. Are you kidding me? They can do it. Anyway, I think that the future of Bitcoin, it's not great. Now, I do think it could go on a run, but I don't see that run happening, quite possibly, for at least another year, because the Jupiter return Bitcoin started in 2009. So we're getting up to like at the end of really 2020, 2021, right around there, right? The final degrees of Jupiter and Capricorn. That's when it hits the Jupiter return. But by then, there's a lot of stuff that needs to take place. And with the South Node here, really getting into the Bitcoin wheelhouse with the Sun in Capricorn, it's vulnerable again. Bitcoin is vulnerable again. And a lot of people, like to ride the highs and lows. And if you're really, really vested in it, you're probably thinking, well, shit, we just went through a big high. Now we're in another valley phase. I would probably look at kind of where you are with it. And I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder to do those exchanges, because those exchanges have to show up somewhere. They'll show up somewhere. What I would do is, if I had Bitcoin, I'd try to work with people who would take your Bitcoin in exchange for something and not money, right? Like if somebody wanted to use your Bitcoin for the purchase of land, or the purchase of some sort of material good, or something that you could actually exchange without having to go through an exchange, that's what I would do. That is definitely what I would do. And the true node over here in the 12th house in Cancer, certainly home, land could be part of that exchange. Uranus might be somewhat helpful as it begins to ingress into the higher degrees of Taurus. That might be helpful, but that's not for another 3 to 4 years. If you can last that long. I don't know. I don't like the South Node here at this point of Bitcoin's chart. I feel like the government's going to get involved, and it already is. So caveat emptor, buyer beware. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And if Mr. Poopy Mouth is right, then you may want to look at how you can exchange some of your Bitcoin, or and Bitcoin is the whale. There are all these other cryptos that are involved, some of which I think, just like in the early .com phase, will be picked up and will be used by either companies or governments. It'll be ones that maybe Bitcoin will be the I don't know, the lingua franca or whatever. Maybe it'll be Ripple XRP. I can't prognosticate, but I know what happens with emergent technologies. One or two actually survive. And this is an emergent technology. One or two, well, we have the crypto and the blockchain are related. They're not always the same thing. Crypto exists in a blockchain. Blockchain has other uses. Okay, so they're two. So it's the blockchain technology that will advance. And I think some of the cryptocurrencies will make the transition and be co-opted. That's what I think. Because we've seen it with everything. We've seen it with copy machines. We've seen it with search engines. We've seen it with websites. There are a few computers. There used to be a number of different kinds of computers. There was all these companies, Commodore, Amiga, they all made computers, and a lot of them went away, right? So there will be some entities inside of the cryptocurrency world that will ultimately be co-opted and then integrated. Will Bitcoin be one of them? I'm not sure. Maybe when Pluto gets into Aquarius, if Bitcoin is still around, that's a time where it might actually, be something that could be integrated, and who knows, maybe it becomes the currency for the mark of the beast. But for now, I'd say it's vulnerable. Again, I say it's vulnerable. And if you do go on a run, if it does go on a run for the next week, I would say after that, you may want to look at doing something with your Bitcoin. That's just me. Okay. Where are we? Where are we in Chatlandia? What's going on? Let's see. What do we have? John Turberger, McAfee. I watched your son and confused me. I quit. Who are we talking about? There is a Vedic astrology telling when you get into Bitcoin and that it's going to grow exponentially. Could be. I don't know. I can't. Yeah. Look, I wouldn't. Here's what I wouldn't put my life savings in it. I wouldn't put my life savings in it because they want that. You know, the government wants that shit, and the IRS wants that stuff. They want that money. They want it, and that's got to come out somewhere. You know, it's got to surface somewhere, and when it does surface, you know, those. I mean, everything is locked down now. You know, if PayPal, Stripe, Square. I mean, all these third-party companies that do these transactions. Who do you think they report to? You know, I get a statement. I get a statement from PayPal every year. Anyway, that's Bitcoin. All right, what else we got? Okay, there were a couple other charts. Okay, this is a sports chart. I know how much everybody loves sports. This is a sports chart that I thought was really interesting. And this is a synastry chart. I'm going to do a couple of synastry charts now. This is the chart for Vita Blue. And Vita Blue has just an interesting chart in general. Let me see if I can find this chart. It's just a fascinating chart. At least I think it's an interesting chart. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. It's right here. Right here. Isn't that a great name? Vita Blue. What a name. What a cool name. Vita Blue. The A's had Vita Blue, and they also had a guy named Dick Green. How about that? And they also had a guy named Blue Moon Odom, all on the same team. So they had blue and green and blue. Let me just throw Vita's chart up here. Give me a sec. It's a pretty cool chart. I think it's an interesting chart for me. Okay. So Vita has a very extreme funnel chart, very extreme, with all his planets between house 8 and 11. He was born on July 28th, 1949 in Mansfield, Louisiana. So he's got Sun, Mercury, Pluto, and Leo. Vita was a great athlete, played high school quarterback. He could throw a baseball probably about 98 miles per hour, 99 miles per hour. I think he got up around 100 a couple times. Vita was nasty. He was, as a pitcher, he was nasty. And I actually saw his very first game with my father as a doubleheader, his very first game, and that he started. He pitched one of the game. We came in for relief. That was in the 1970 season. So the 1971 season is when Vita Blue won the AL MVP and the Cy Young. Very, very hard to do. Very hard to do. And he did it in 1971. He was only 22 years old at the time. Very young guy. Saturn conjunction of the midheaven. He had a difficult time with ownership and authority. He had a very difficult time with Charles O'Finley, who is the owner of the A's. Later on, Vita would wind up getting busted for not just the use, but the possession and distribution of cocaine. This would be in the late 70s, early 80s. You see the Mars square to Neptune. It was a big scandal in baseball with these guys that played for the Kansas City Royals. And Vita was part of that scandal. Baseball had a cocaine problem, just like every other industry in the 1980s. But Vita was a hell of an athlete, great athlete. And to this day, he's still connected with the San Francisco Giants. Scorpio rising on the ascendant, true node in Aries. Okay, so remember that true node in Aries. All right, so I wanted to bring his chart up here. Ninth house, good at sports, Leo, performer, and Saturn on the midheaven. He had a pretty good career. Could have lasted longer, I think. He had the Mars-Uranus conjunction in the 8th house, and to me, that ties into that Neptune. He got involved with the wrong people when he was in Kansas City, and it could have put him in prison. He got lucky. He got very, very lucky. I think it has something to do with his sun being in the 9th house. Sagittarians tend to be lucky, even though he's a Leo 9th house sun. Okay, so let me show you something. And to me, I found this to be super interesting. So when Vida Blue won the AL MVP, that's the most valuable player in the league, and the Cy Young, which is the award goes to the best pitcher. It was literally his first full season in baseball. Okay, nobody's ever done that since then. And this was his first game of the 1971 season. It was Friday, April 9th, and of course, Oakland, California, 7:30 p.m. I just wanted to show you, look where the sun was. The sun was at 5, right? 5 Aries, right here, right? Sorry, 19 Aries. His sun is at 5 Leo. 19 Aries, and his true node was at 19 Aries. He had an exact sun true node conjunction. Bam, right there. At first start of the season. Talk about setting the table in the 5th house, right? 5th house, fun and games, sports, performance, and there it is. This is the marker that started Vida Blue's Cy Young AL MVP season. That night, that game, he won. They beat the Kansas City Royals, ironically, the team he would eventually wind up on, and get in trouble for the possession and distribution of cocaine. All right. Now we also have a trine from the sun to Pluto. Look at that. But check this out also. Jupiter, Sagittarius, 1st house, trining the sun, trining Mercury, trining Pluto. This is where seriously, the forces of the cosmos were with Vida Blue. They're with Vida Blue, right here. This is the table center. The sun was right on his true node, right? Trining Pluto. This is destined. This is totally destined. And check this out. His sun was on the midheaven, right there, right there. I couldn't script this any better. Could not script this any better for his first start of the season, where he winds up winning 24 games, becomes the MVP of the league that year, and the Cy Young. But what happens to Vida, this is where he gets into trouble, is that the following year, he decides he wants more money. And that's when Jupiter goes into his 2nd house, and he winds out sitting out. Part of that year, he held out for more money. And he was like, damn, I just won the MVP. And back then, baseball players made shit. I don't blame him. I don't blame him for sitting out. But the league was not wired that way. It just wasn't wired that way. Now he might be able to get away with it. Maybe. But he certainly would be making more money now than he would be then. But he overreached. Right? He's got Neptune in Libra, so he went into the Jupiter-Neptune square. He overplayed his hand. And he came back middle of the season. He wasn't great. He was 6-12. I was like, what happened? Well, what happened was he didn't prepare. His heart wasn't in it. And eventually he righted the ship. But one of the greatest seasons as a pitcher in modern history of baseball was with Vida Blue 1971. Sun conjunct the true node, sun on the midheaven, Jupiter, Neptune in his 1st house, Jupiter trining his sun, Jupiter trining the midheaven, setting the table for the rest of the season. record-setting, fantastic. Too bad he didn't get paid more money. He sat out, overplayed his hand. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys this because of this. I thought this was really interesting. And what a great time to make your debut that season, right? With Sun. Now, the game was shortened. I think they had it only went 6 innings. So I think they had some rain going on. And maybe that was the Mercury square. Maybe that was the Neptune square at that time, with the conditions of the game. But he won. He got the win. All right, Vita Blue. There he is. Blast from the past. Okay, so another synastry chart as we come into the second hour here, coming up in the second hour. I'll do a couple more charts. So another synastry chart that was interesting for me when I looked at it, so I can find it here. Let's see, where'd it go? All right, what's this? Let me do this. That's the chart of the moment. 1 sec. Blue, John McAfee. Oh, here it is. All right. Yeah. All right. So today is Jackie Onassis's birthday. Here we go, right there. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, my bad. There we go. Jackie Onassis's birthday. So I want to look at her chart with Aristotle Onassis. Like what's going on here? Now, Aristotle Onassis, there's no birth time, but I'm not necessarily concerned with that when I do a synastry chart, because we know that Jackie O, born 2:30 p.m., Southampton, New York, raised by the Auchincloss family. Anyway, I wanted to see what was going on with Onassis's chart. What did I give him? What ascendant did I give him? I gave him, yes, kind of an AM chart, Sun and Capricorn on the ascendant. Okay. So one of the things that I looked at here was Jackie had Venus in the 8th house. And Venus in the 8th house is interesting. Number one of the things that it sort of confers is that people generally have a long lifespan with Venus in the 8th house, from what I understand. So if you've got Venus in the 8th house, congratulations. Very good chance you have longevity in your chart. The other thing with Venus in the 8th house is people are very, very secretive with relationships. And this I know for as a gospel truth, because of my relationship with somebody who has Venus in their 8th house. And as a result of that relationship, well, let's just put it this way. I was with somebody who had Venus in the 8th house, worked with this person, and this went on for, a year. And nobody even knew that we knew each other or were even remotely close. And yet, the fact of the matter was, well, we were actually married, right? That's how secretive Venus in the 8th house can be, okay? Very, very secretive. And money and resources are very important to Venus 8th house people. Very important. If you get a Venus transit in the 8th house, it's a good money transit, by the way. Very good money transit. Anyway, so here we go. She's got Venus in Gemini. Now we know that JFK was a Gemini, so yeah, there's the connection there. But she's also got secrets with Venus in the 8th house. And look whose Pluto shows up right there on her Venus. Mr. Aristotle Onassis. Secret relationship. Perhaps even a secret birth. Perhaps even a secret father. There's Saturn in the 2nd house. Represents father in the chart. The Pluto opposition. 5th house. Conception. Gee, I wonder who we're talking about now. Yeah, I wonder who we're talking about. Yeah, I think we're talking about JFK Jr., but this is also about power and resources, right? I think this is it, man. Pluto, Venus. There's a lot going on here behind closed doors with this relationship. Significant. This Jupiter shows up in her seventh house. She's going to expand and get resources from Mr. Jupiter Taurus, right? Money, 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 money. His moon, Sagittarius, in her first house, somebody from another country. He's from, oh, it's not Smyrna, Georgia. That's my bad. Smyrna, Turkey. Smyrna, Turkey. It doesn't really matter. That's just going to be for the ascendant. So my bad. He's born in Smyrna, Turkey. It's still going to be roughly the same. The same planets are going to be there. I'm not concerned with his ascendant. I'm just concerned about where his planets, because he was born Moon in Gemini, still going to be in the first house. Okay? All right. But here's one of the things that really got me about this chart. And I look at this chart, I'm like, holy shit, this is really complicated. Like, this is a freaking complicated chart. Look at all these lines. Look at all the oppositions, the inconjuncts, the squares. There's actually not a lot really connecting them. You know, we've got what? The moon trine sun, trine Mercury. That's okay, right? Jupiter, the seventh house, will definitely connect them. The Venus-Pluto conjunction will definitely connect them. You got a Mars-Pluto trine. Again, that's kind of a resource-based thing. But there's not a whole lot connecting these people, except for conflict and complexity. So check this out. I did a little research on their marriage, and they did not have a typical agreement when it came to their marriage agreement. I'm going to show this to you. Check this out. Just remember complexity. I gotta find this thing. Let's see, is this it? All right, it's a two-part thing. I got that. That's one. And where's the other? Let's see. So is this it? Okay, I'm going to read this. It's from New York Times, from 1971. Okay, so let me. I'm going to pop this up here. Remember that chart. Remember how complex it looked. Really complex. They had a complex arrangement. Very complex. London, October 31st. According to Christian Kafarakis, former chief steward on Aristotle Onassis' yacht Christina, the marriage contract between Mr. Onassis and his wife, the former Jacqueline Kennedy, was so complex that it required 170 clauses. Just think about that. They didn't have just a marriage, they had some kind of like contractual merger. And think about that chart, because when I saw them saying, holy shit, this is a complex relationship. 170 clauses. Mr. Kafarakis worked aboard the Christina for 10 years. His story of the extraordinary marriage contract that was thrashed out between the respective lawyers and signed by the couple in New York 3 days before his ceremony on the Isle of Scorpios appears today in the People, a popular Sunday newspaper. Mr. Kafarakis, who is also said to publish a book on the subject, did not explain in the copyright article how he became privy to the contract. The marriage took place 3 years ago. Let me throw up the other screen share here. Oh, Jasper's getting a little too intense. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me do the other screen share. All right. So here's the other screen share. Check this out. I am one of the few people who've been privileged to learn the contents of this remarkable document with its 170 clauses covering down to the smallest detail the married life of this celebrated couple. He wrote, according to Mr. Kafarakis, the contract stipulated separate bedrooms for the couple and lays down the times of the year they spend together. This explains, he said, why Jackie has her own house on the Isle of Scorpios and why in New York she always stays in her flat in Fifth Avenue while her husband rents permanently a suite on the top floor of the Hotel Pierre 400 yards away. They didn't even live together. They did not even live together. But I'll tell you what he did do is he gave her resources. And he gave him a lot. He gave her a lot. He gave her a lot of resources. And that's where she was able to do a lot of her publishing stuff. And I'd be very surprised if JFK Jr. did not start George with Onassis money. They had Onassis money involved in it. That's my sense. But again, 170 clauses in the contract. And those were just like a few of the high level clauses, when to meet, when they'd spend time together. I was like, holy smokes, man. Just look at this again. I'll just bring it up one more time. This is the synastry chart of a couple that's got 170 clauses in their contract. I mean, look how complex that thing looks. I can just imagine somebody bringing this chart to me, right? It's like, I'd like you to look at this chart. I'm thinking about getting married to this person. What do you think? Like, how much you pay me? How much time do we have? I think we need to put a little more money in the meter here with this chart. I mean, just to get into the inconjuncts alone, the mystery of the inconjuncts is like, look at that, Venus inconjunct to Neptune, right there, Sun inconjunct right there. Man, oh man, it's crazy, 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 crazy. Where's our Venus? Over here, right? Opposition to Saturn. People liked each other. I'm not sure she liked him. I think there was a different motivation going on here for this marriage. A very different kind of motivation, if you ask me. Very different kind of motivation. This is not the marriage. This is not the chart of two people that were. But the Pluto-Venus conjunction is definitely faded, right? And it is around death. And it is around resources. But this is not the chart of two people that are, I think, madly in love with each other. No, there's something much bigger going on here. Much, much bigger. All right, 170 clauses. My God. If you had to have a clause in your marriage, what would it be? What would your marriage clause be? If you had to have like 3 things that were non-negotiable, that your partner would just say, okay, I got to agree to this. What would those 3 things be? Be above the line. Let's put it that way. What were those 3? Those I have one. I know it's so mundane. I have one. And it's like, let me watch NFL Red Zone on Sunday. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's one of my clauses. NFL Red Zone on Sunday. That's one of the clauses. I'd have maybe a few others, but that's about the only clause. The only clause I would have. They had 170, and I don't know how that was split up. You know, was it 85, 85? She's got 85. He's got. I have no idea. But I bet you Aristotle Onassis was the guy who was driving the clock. They had lawyers. They had lawyers working this shit out. Okay. Well, Jackie agrees to this, but it's got to be at this time of year because I'm an artist. Holy shit. All right. What else do I have? Oh, I was going to talk about Ilhan Omar's chart. She's very popular these days. Ilhan Omar. Let's see if I can find her. She's here somewhere. I was going to look at, God, maybe I should do that. I don't know, it's controversial. I always get into hot water when I talk about the trans stuff. Let me see here, hold on. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna have to grab it off of line. Give me a second here, because I don't think I transferred it. Hold on. Okay. Maybe this is it. Yep. Yep. Okay. So I decided to look at Ilhan Omar's astrology. Check out her chart. Give me a second here. All right. Oh, wrong one. Stop share. Here we go. Okay. Again, I don't know her time. Don't know her time. So I just threw something up there that I thought could be maybe stick to the wall. Virgo rising because she's so critical. She's so critical. Mars and Leo. She does have Mars and Leo. And I thought 12th house, maybe hidden enemies, things like that, right? Was born in Mogadishu, Chiron, sort of the wounded home away from, the 9th house, moving away from it. You know what I've noticed? I've noticed that a lot of people that have Chiron and Taurus don't have a lot of Earth in their charts. I've noticed this. And people that have Chiron and Taurus have a hard time being on the planet. They do. I've noticed most of my work with people that have Chiron and Taurus, they have eating disorders, issues with intimacy, body issues. Sometimes they feel like they're aliens. They don't understand life on this planet. They feel like, how did I get here? What am I doing here? They can be very, very functional and still not feel very grounded or connected. And it's a very interesting Chiron to have, because you're here on Earth and you got to heal the relationship. And I found a lot of the people with Chiron and Taurus don't have a lot of Earth in their charts, which exacerbates this. And she's one of them. So she's not very grounded. Let's put it that way. But she is very ideological. She's got Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, all in the sign of Libra. So, she's born 10 days, different years, right? But Ocasio-Cortez is born on the 14th of October. So they're both SJWs, right? They're both SJWs. Ocasio-Cortez has actually Mars in Libra, and I believe it conjuncts her sun, if I'm not mistaken. But she is, so Ilhan Omar makes up for a little bit of the not having any Earth because of the Sun-Saturn conjunction. People with Sun-Saturn conjunctions, like we saw with Tracy Twyman's chart, although this is not as close. It's separated by 2 degrees. They're severe characters. They can be very severe and very serious. And she's got a pretty tight conjunction also with Jupiter, right? So there's a lot of these ideas of equality, ideas of balance, liberty. Like, she's very invested in them, okay? Super invested. But she's also a bit obsessed with Pluto in the Pluto conjunction with Jupiter. I wonder if she's on somebody's payroll with the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. The marriage to her brother, she's got a Venus-Uranus conjunction. That's weird relationships. She's just gotten divorced again. So I think this is the father of her current kids. So I think he left her, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe she left him, although really he left her. But anyway, this is siblings right here. Again, I just threw this up here. Kind of makes sense that she might have married her brother with Venus-Uranus conjunction in the 3rd house. But she's going to have weird relationships anyway. And she's definitely going to piss people off with a Mars square to Venus and a Mars square mostly to Venus, but Venus with Uranus conjunction. Definitely piss people off. Moon, Neptune. So this is a chart that's heavily dominated by conjunctions. For all intents and purposes, this is like a bundle chart. And again, Moon, Neptune conjunction, moving to another country, finding a home in a new place, right? From a distant place, Sagittarius, this kind of fits. That's how I see it. Was she going to be on the hot spot here? Well, Jupiter is conjuncting her moon. So it's putting an emphasis on her home life, where she came from. Jupiter's retrograde, send her back. There you go. That makes some sense, right? Does to me with the Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is retro. It's right there. It's right on her moon. Send her back home, right, to her moon, which is her home in a foreign country, Sagittarius. Okay. Well, that would work in any part of the chart because Jupiter's conjuncting and retrograding her moon. So what else is happening? Well, she's got Saturn squaring Jupiter right now, and Saturn's retrograding. I think she's going to get into some legal trouble. She's going to have some legal issues. And next year, she's going to have that Pluto square and Saturn squaring Pluto in her own chart next year. That's problematic. That is very, very problematic. She's got kids. That'll be interesting. I wonder, well, even though this may not be her birth time, but she's got some issues coming up, and they're going to be severe, and they're going to be legal. Ilhan Omar's got legal issues on the horizon, and she better watch her P's and Q's. I don't have a problem with her calling shit out, by the way. I don't. Just be a little more gracious about it. Be a little more respectful about it. I don't have a problem with her calling stuff out. I don't have a problem with her calling stuff out about Somalia or Mogadishu. I don't have a problem with that. It's a fuck story, even though her father was, probably one of the generals there. And I mean, but it's a bad scene, right? And I don't have a problem with her calling out stuff on Israel and Gaza. I don't. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. However, that said, she's living here in this country, right? She's getting paid by taxpayers. This country gave her a decent place to live. Do it with some respect, some decorum. I'm not sure if she can, though. Not with the Pluto conjunction to Jupiter. And she's got that Mercury in Scorpio, and it's what we call pretty much singleton. Ilhan Omar is not stupid. She's not stupid. Not at all. Not with Mercury and Scorpio. And again, I'm not saying it's ingressing here into the third. I'm just presupposing her birth time. She's not dumb at all. She's got a quintile to Mars. I mean, she's a fighter. I just think she needs to be a little more gracious. Let's put it that way. A little more respectful. She's gonna have legal problems, though. Trust me on this. That's Saturn square Pluto, Pluto square Pluto. She's going to have issues. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens with her as a result of that. Also, she's going to be going through the Neptune retrograde, so I think about 16. So part of it is also be the Neptune square to the moon. She's going to have a Neptune square coming up over the next couple of years. That's going to be pretty tricky for her. Chiron is going to be opposing her sun. That'll be interesting for sure. I don't know. I think her chart is pretty challenging moving forward, to be honest with you. She's not very grounded. She's not very grounded. She doesn't understand certain things. She has no earth in her chart. And I believe she is ideologically driven by the what's going on here with you. She's a little bit older than the millennials. Ilhan Omar is more Gen X, by the way, than she is. Ocasio-Cortez is a millennial. So she's a Gen Xer. So Gen X, she's all yours. You can have her. But I think she's got issues coming up. And I think those, I would say probably starting around the eclipse in December, with all this stuff that's going to start to square off against all of her Libra planets. She's going to have legal issues. Here you go, Ilhan Omar. Not grounded at all. Not grounded. She's not dumb either. She's not dumb. All right, let me check in with you guys, see where you're at. I think I'm about to wind things down here. Let's see what we got in the chat room. Volatile suck. I caught my son. Let's see. She was caught saying her home is Somalia. Yep. Minnesota got turned upside down. Let's see what else we have. Tanya said family using this time. The father princes. What else? Tom Fitton's bulldog. Tom Fitton is good. I like Tom Fitton. That's an appropriate name. You ever see that guy? Looks like he goes to the gym six days out of the week. That guy is buff. The one thing I have is an issue with Judicial Watch, and kind of a pet peeve of mine is Judicial Watch is, I think, funded to a large degree by the Israeli lobby and AIPAC, because Judicial Watch never goes after that side of the ledger sheet. I think they do a good job, but I think it's kind of a firewall there, and I've noticed that with Judicial Watch. They leave certain people. Look, I am not in favor of dual citizens in my government. I don't care. I don't care what country they serve or represent. I don't think they have a place in this government. I don't care if they're from, Botswana or Bolivia, Brazil, Malaysia. I don't think dual citizens should be serving this country because it represents a dual affiliation. I don't care. And there are a lot of dual citizens, and they're dual citizens with Israel. I'm sorry. I don't agree with it. I don't care what the country is, right? So I think Tom Fitton is good, but I also think that, he's got a firewall. I think Judicial Watch has a firewall. That's what I've observed. Okay. But Ilhan Omar, she's got legal issues coming up, big time legal issues. I'd be surprised if she makes it next year, through the year. Be very, very surprised. Okay, let's see what else we have here in the chat room. Okay, what do we got? Agree on dual citizenship statement. Yeah, I'm just not down with it. It never gets talked about. Nobody ever talks about dual citizens. One of these days, I'm going to call into a talk radio guy. They're going to call him to Lars Larson's show, because he says disbelievers or people who don't agree with me get to the head of the line. I think I'll call in, because that's one thing talk radio never talks about: dual citizens. They never go there. Never. Well, why should you question them? They're the only democracy in the Middle East. If they're the only democracy in the Middle East, then how the hell is Benjamin Netanyahu get to become king of Israel for the last 20 years, basically? To me, that's not much of a democracy. It's not much of a democracy at all. Why don't you, circulate somebody else in there? It's a bit different. And clearly, to me, it's about as apartheid as South Africa was. And if you drill down, you'll know exactly. That's not to say that everybody in Israel is bad. There are people in Israel who would agree with me. They happen to live there, okay? They happen to live there. And they can look around and say, I don't agree with this, but they're there. Just like there are people in the United States that live here. They don't always agree with everything here. That's what happens. Sometimes you're a captive of your geography. That's the way it goes. I'm just telling you, these are my thoughts. I'd like to see the Palestinians have a much better life, and be represented better, and not have their budgets cut. I mean, for crying out loud, Trump cut their budget. See, that's one thing that Trump did I didn't like. I didn't like that. Those people have a right to exist. They were there, been there for a long time. So, talk radio though, American talk radio will never, ever, ever approach that. Never talk about that. You know why? Because they'll lose their freaking jobs. They will lose their jobs as a result. All right, let me get into the chat one more time. Dual citizenship, I agree. Dual citizenship. Oh, we got a California shooting. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm sure we'll have something to talk about tomorrow then. I totally agree. Dual citizenship should not be allowed. Pick one or the other. One or the other. One or the other. Period. End of story. If you want to go, be a citizen of Israel, go run for the Knesset, go do it. Unless you're John McAfee, you want to run for Prime Minister of England and President of the United States. You know what? If there's somebody that could pull it off, it might be John McAfee. Just maybe. And guess what he'll have at the end of the day? A shit-eating grin. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being a part of tonight's show. I really appreciate you being a part of it as always. Wouldn't be able to do it without you. I'd just be talking to myself, which I've done on quite a few occasions. So it's much nicer and more healthy for me to do it with you. And I've got an event coming up. You can go to robertphoenix.com. It is now splashed on the front page. And we're going to have Harvest Moon in the Hill Country. It's going to be fantastic. I've got a hotel set up. I've got rooms. I might even get a place for an Airbnb if we get too many people. Have some overflow. I just want everybody to be a part of it that wants to be a part of it. I'm going to be there. We'll be talking astrology. I'll be doing some astrological stuff. Who else is going to be there? Glenn Streeter is going to bring his magical healing machines. He'll be there. Who else? Emily Moyer is going to come and show up. Joan Safsik is going to be there, who's on the leading edge of biological dentistry and how teeth are really kind of the seat of your spirituality in a lot of ways. They're really, really important. Joan's going to talk about that. And the Crimmies are going to be there. And Chris is going to be out at Enchanted Rock. We're going to go to Enchanted Rock. She's going to teach us how to douse. Steve's going to interview Stephen Kent, my good friend Stephen Kent, who's going to be giving us a private didgeridoo concert. We're going to have a ton of fun. So that's over on robertphoenix.com. The link is right there. It's right on the sidebar. Go check it out. It's going to be super cool. A lot of people want to get together and meet. This is an opportunity to do that. And I hope we can do this every year and we can move the location around. Might be a lot of fun to do that. And just, zone in on the local cuisine, local talent. We are going to eat barbecue. We are going to eat Tex-Mex. It's going to be a Texas kind of thing. So if you're into that sort of thing, you'll enjoy it. I know you will. All right. Find me at robertphoenix.com. If you want a reading, I do those. I enjoy doing them. I was very busy last week. A lot of readings. But use your head to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. I'll be back on Tuesday with 15 minutes of flame. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. In the meantime, take very good care of yourself. And it's been a pleasure hanging out with you tonight. Signing off.